The bad news is that the cat bitch took out the boss. I was there.
1월 1일.
She really put a number on it. But whatever, man. We need a new plan. Assuming none of you have a better idea, I say we hide out here while the rest of them run around in circles,
which has 20
Joker's untimely passing.
New Year's Day.
I take it
Should
by your
old
silence.
acquaintance be forgot and all that? I made sure she wouldn't forget me that day, didn't I, Batman? It was the first New Year's party I'd been invited to in a long time. But then I wasn't really invited, was I? The restraining order saw to that. Still, she and I had been close, or so I believed. And a new year means a new start. I admit, stepping into a crowded ballroom with a flamethrower was a bit dramatic. But what better way to melt the ice at a party? Perhaps she should have taken that cup of kindness from me when I first offered.
끝났나 보네.
The bad news is that the
2월
cat bitch
14일.
took out the boss. I was there. She really did a number on it. But whatever, man.
Valentine's
We need a new plan.
Day.
Assuming none of you have a better idea, I say we hide out here while the rest of them run.
Valentine's Day. Hearts and flowers. The perfect occasion to smother my new love with tokens of affection. I chose a dozen red roses, an assortment of truffles, and a darling little lacy thing. Oh, excuse me. I didn't mean to be so intimate. You might say I'd overdone it. And in truth, at that point, my love and I had not actually met. Ever the romantic, I followed her to her apartment. Loudly proclaiming my love, I drowned out her screams of protest. Sadly, it was not to be. So instead of smothering her with gifts, I simply smothered her.
다음은
The bad news is that the
이번엔
cat bitch
3월
took out the
17일.
boss. I was there.
30 days has November,
But whatever,
April,
man. We need a new
June,
plan.
and September.
Assuming none of
Of
you have a better
28
idea,
is but
I
one.
say we hide
All
out
the
here
rest.
while the rest of them run round in
March
circles,
17th,
untimely
the day
passing.
set aside for St. Patrick,
I take it
the
by your
holy man
silence
who
that you
drove the
don't.
snakes from Ireland. Interesting thing about snake venom, Batman. Some are green, just like the dye used to make green beer. That made it all the easier when I hosted that St. Patty's Day party for my old gang. As you remember, one of my henchmen tried to tip you off. I wasn't sure which one had done it, so I decided to punish them all. One dose of green mamba venom into the beer keg, and they were soon rotting under the shamrocks. So I guess that makes you responsible for their deaths, too. I'll drink to that.
뭔 소리야?
The bad news is the cat
오늘은
bitch took
4월
out the
1일.
boss. I was there. She really did a number on it.
September,
But whatever,
April,
man. We need a new
June,
plan.
and November.
Assuming none of you have a better idea.
Well,
I say we
well,
hide
well,
out here while the
Batman.
rest of them run
Listened
round in
well.
circles over the
You
Joker's
appear to
untimely
understand
passing.
the importance of dates,
I take it
don't
by
you?
your silence.
Let me tell you about this day of fools. I remember clearly that I watched her for days, waiting for the perfect moment. It was cold that March. It felt like spring would never come. They drank coffee, and she confessed her life lacked surprises. For 6 more days, I watched. April 1st, 5:22 a.m. I finished cutting through the brake lines of her car. From the camera I placed on her dash, I saw her panic. My only regret? She couldn't hear me yell, "Surprise!"
Bad news is the cat bitch took out the
5월
boss.
12일.
I was there. She
30 days has November,
But whatever, man.
April,
We need a new
June,
plan.
and
Assuming
September
none of you have
of
a better
28.
idea, I say we hide out here.
M
The rest
was
of
for the
us
murderous
circle
look she
the
gave me.
doors.
O meant only she was
I take it by
weak.
your silence that you don't. Good.
T is for her terror as she fought me. H is for her heart that I now hold. E is for her eyes swiftly dimming. R means rot, and soon rotting she will be. Put them all together, they spell mother, a word that means a corpse to me. Happy Mother's Day, Mommy.
5월 12일에 어버이날인가?
The bad news is the
6월
cat bitch
16일.
took out the boss. I was there.
30 days has November,
But whatever,
April,
man. We need a new
June,
plan.
and September.
Assuming none of you have a better idea.
I wasn't real
I say we
close to
hide
my
out here
dad,
while the rest of us
and after
run
my first
around.
internment at Arkham,
Joker's untimely
never
passing.
spoke at all.
I
Seems he
take it
wrote
by
me
your
off as a
silence that you
wacko,
don't.
loser. So, after I was released, I wanted to clear the air between us. Next Father's Day, I dropped by his place and suggested we go fishing.
아버지의 날도 있나
You ever go
6월
fishing
16일.
with your pop? Well, it's some fun, let me tell you. The two of us out on the water, pulling in one whopper after another. Of course, I was doing the actual pulling. Dad was baiting the hooks. You know,
Oof.
with a finger, a foot, an eye. Whatever I had left of him. Even today, whenever I eat a nice piece of fish, I feel closer to my dear old dad.
아버지를 토막살인했어.
The bad news is the
7월
cat bitch
4일.
took out the boss. I was there. She really put a number on it.
September.
But whatever,
April,
man. We need a
June.
new plan. Assuming none of you
Explosives
have a better idea,
planted at
I say
every
we hide out
exit
here while the
and
rest of us
beneath
run
this
around.
cell
Independence Day.
itself. What better way to celebrate Independence Day?
Take it by your silence.
My independence, of course, from Arkham. Unfortunately, I decided to be clever about it and had a calendar sent to police headquarters with the month of July ripped out. You figured it out right away and arrived just as the fireworks were starting. You stopped me from escaping, but not before the fire swept through the intensive care ward. But then, what's the 4th of July without a barbecue?
점점 대사가 짧아지고 있구만. 좋아 좋아.
The bad news is the cat bitch took out the boss. I was there.
30
She really
days.
put a
8월
number on it.
16일.
But whatever, man.
June.
We need a new plan. Assuming
Do you
none of
remember
have
that
a better idea,
wonderfully
I say we
hellish
hide out here
August,
while the rest of us
Batman?
run round in circles over the
Packs
Joker's
of mad
untimely
dogs swarming the furnace
I take it
hot
by your
streets,
silence.
savaging everyone in their path. One bite, and humans were reduced to crazed animals
광견병 얘기야?
themselves. Good times. Though Crane provided me with the hydrophobia formula, I had the presence of mind to release the hounds on August 16th, the feast day of St. Roach, patron saint of dogs. An obscure date, I know, but I couldn't imagine a better way to celebrate the dog days of summer. Early September. Kids headed back to school, leaves starting to turn, and best of all, Labor Day. Like the
9월
year
2일 근로자
I
날.
posed as a construction laborer and drove a bulldozer through the gold exchange. Or the year I referenced the labors of Hercules and released lions, bulls, and wild boars upon Gotham. Better than a circus. Even you have to admit last Labor Day was my most inspired. Laying siege to that hospital maternity ward? You labored mightily yourself that day. Saved every one of them. Well, there's always next year.
원래는 일어나서 걸어야 되는데 이거 약간 버그인 것 같죠? 했는데 한 번은 말 걸어지는데 그 이후로 말이 안 걸어지네. 그래도 2개씩 할 수 있으니까 이게 더 나을 것 같고. 지금 이제 12월 31일 할로윈데.
Boo! Funny thing, Halloween in Arkham. It seems redundant here. Within these walls, the monsters are on display year-round. Of course, there was that one year Joker led a breakout on All Hallows Eve. What a wonderful night. Costumed revelers innocently partying alongside killers and fiends. Of course, the real screams came when it was time to unmask. Trick or treat.
짧고 좋아. 말이 걸 수 있는 상태가 되면 날짜를 바꿔보도록 하겠습니다. (11월 28일)
You know, I always feel a little lonesome in November. I think that's because even the worst of us enjoy a good old-fashioned family Thanksgiving. I know I did a few years back when I dropped in unannounced on Turkey Day.
추수감사절인가 보구나.
All those surprised faces around the table. Mom and Dad could hardly believe it. Mind you, I don't know whose mom and dad they were. I was on the run and needed a place to lay low. That family, whoever they were, could certainly cook. Stuffing and gravy and pumpkin pie to die for. Unfortunately, they did. Like I said, always feel lonesome in November.
그리고 다시 말이 안 걸어지죠. 그거 약간 버그인 것 같은데. 마지막 크리스마스 12월 25일.
But whatever, man. We need a new plan. Assuming none of you have a better idea, I say we
Ebenezer
저기 아직
Scrooge was a
대사 안
saint
되고 말이
compared
끝나면
to
다
old Judge
들어오나?
Harkness. Remember him, Batman? Gotham's hanging judge, they called him. Even though the state had ruled me insane, Harkness swore he'd send me to the gallows. So you see, it was all a simple act of self-preservation. I could hardly be held responsible for strangling that street corner Santa Claus for his suit. I needed the disguise to sneak into the judge's Christmas Eve party. Harkness thought it was all in fun, until Saint Nick caught him around the neck with a string of Christmas lights. The cops found him later, hanging from the elaborate light display of his own roof. Judgy almost looked like a cartoon himself, alongside the comical reindeer, elves, and snowmen. I call that murder my Christmas special.
업적이 안 뜨네.
Saint compared to old
업적
Judge
떴네요.
Harkness.
결국
Remember him, Batman?
그걸 다
Gotham's
저장을 해야
hanging
됐던
judge,
거였어.
they called him. Even though the state had ruled me